Step into the freedom of summer with jewelry that reflects who you are and where you're going. From sunrise to sunset, Pandora jewelry transports you to paradise. No passport required. Think of things like ocean charms, colorful tennis bracelets. You can shop all of these new arrivals to add to your summer staples. Be unmissable and vacation ready. Feel it, live it, embrace it, be love. Shop in-store or online at pandora.net to discover new styles. I am so excited to see so many people talking about perimenopause and menopause, but honestly, it is a long time coming and way past due. For literally hundreds of years, society hasn't wanted to talk about menopause, and when they do, they make it sound terrible. So Walgreens is helping women change the perception and take back our narrative, because nothing is sexier than being in control. Let's reframe menopause together. Join the hashtag #MenopauseIsHot conversation and help reframe menopause.
When you're an internationally best-selling author, and both of us have been, it's like, well, the next one better be as good. And if it's not, you get unhappy because there's a part of your brain called the nucleus accumbens that respond to the happiness chemicals like dopamine. And more and more, unfortunately, won't make you happy. That's actually a lie, that you need to be happy with the journey rather than the outcome of the journey.
Hey guys, it's Rach. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here with us today. And I have a favor, which sounds kind of harsh if we just met, but I'm assuming that most of you have been a part of this community for a hot minute. And so I gotta ask, are you subscribed to the podcast? Subscribing to the podcast you listen to regularly is one of the best things that you can do for hosts like me. It helps to support the show and the staff that works on it. It ensures that you never miss an episode when we drop a new one. And here's the cool thing about subscribing. If you do it and then you hate this show, just unsubscribe. It's one click away. In the meantime, if you're listening, we would so appreciate it if you would just tap that button and make it official. Welcome back to another Mastermind episode. These are episodes where we curate the very best insights from past conversations I've had with the brilliant minds who have come onto the podcast. These are conversations to help you live healthier, happier, and feel more energized. Today's theme: how to boost your energy and elevate your mood naturally, consistently, and holistically. We're pulling from some of my all-time favorite interviews. You're going to hear from Dr. Taz, who is the hormone queen. She's been on the show twice. And Dr. Taz and I are talking about hormone health, gut health, and daily habits that impact the way we feel and how we rebalance our body when we're feeling off. You're also going to hear from Dr. Daniel Amen, one of the leading voices in brain health. And for clarity, I've gone to Dr. Amen, my husband's gone, and now 2 of my kids are his patients as well. I'm a massive fan of his work. But Dr. Amen's going to explain how to protect your mental energy and improve mood by literally changing the way you take care of brain health. And Arthur C. Brooks, the Harvard professor who teaches the science of happiness, reveals how purpose, connection, and boundaries play a crucial role in how we feel day to day. I'll also be chiming in with some of my own takeaways and personal strategies that have helped me to reclaim my energy, especially during hard seasons. This is your sign to stop normalizing burnout and start making your emotional and physical well-being a priority. Let's dive in. Can you talk us through, just at the most basic level, what is happening in our body during our monthly cycle?
Definitely. I mean, first of all, we are all cyclical, changing creatures, all of us. So even if you're in menopause and listening to this, you're still cycling. So that's just the nature of being a woman. But basically, those cycles are rooted in fluctuating and changing levels of estrogen and progesterone. So in the first half of our cycle, we're seeing estrogen slowly rise, ideally building up that uterine lining, right? And really prepping for ovulation, for conception, for all these different things. If that doesn't happen, then we see estrogen come back down. Progesterone, kind of like midway through the cycle, is starting to go back up, and now is prepping your uterus, that uterine lining, to shed if you haven't, if you're not pregnant or that hasn't actually taken place. So this dance is actually a really neat dance that the body does. It's like, okay, estrogen's coming up slowly, 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 getting ready to maybe get pregnant. Oh, wait, not pregnant. Okay, we need to go back down. It's time to exit. As it exits, your progesterone almost acts like a detox, so to speak. Let's clean the uterus out. Let's remove everything. Let's get it out of the way. And then we're ready to start all over again. So it's kind of this like very natural reboot system that the body has. And it is tied to our reproductive health and to our fertility. However, it's actually tied to so many other different symptoms, conditions, and functions of the body. And it's really important for women to first identify what their cycle is. Most of us have a 28-day cycle where days 1 through 14, we're feeling, days 1 through 7, we feel amazing. Estrogen levels are coming up. They're coming up. They're coming up. But for folks like you that have estrogen dominance, when those levels come up too high and too fast, then you start to feel really bad as you hit that 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then you go, hopefully you ovulate, and then you have, the decline of the hormones. So a lot of women with imbalanced hormones feel poorly at any of these markers. So some people feel really bad days 7 through 10. Some people feel really bad days 10 through 14 or 15. Some are feeling really bad on that latter half or just the week before, Is
that just based on that they're too low in something, they're not high enough? And is that where the discomfort comes from?
It's the imbalance. So depending, and we can go, I don't know how
how
detailed you want to get.
Just pretend you have this audience of millions of women who are so hungry for information.
Well, let me then let's break down those time markers that I just gave you, and I can tell you exactly what's happening in all of those. But before I jump into that, keep in mind that I'm assuming that everyone's got a 28-day cycle.
Yeah.
There are many people that don't, and we need to talk about that too. Some people are on 21-day cycles or 35-day cycles, and there's some issues there too. But ideally, this 28-day cycle is what the majority of women experience. So let's go back. All right. So you've had your cycle. Day 1 is the first day of your period, by the way. I mean, a lot of women that don't know how to count. So
I didn't know either until my doctor taught me. It's like heavy bleed, right? Because I spot a lot
not
building
a spot.
up. So it's
an
a heavy
actual bleed.
Yes.
You filled a tampon or a pad or something like that. So that's day 1 of your cycle. So you start counting there. Days 1 through 7, estrogen's on its way up, progesterone's still kind of low, but you usually feel pretty good. Most women feel pretty good around this time. As you move to days 7 to 14, estrogen continues to climb. So for our patients that have a lot of issues with estrogen dominance, meaning they have a lot of stored estrogen levels can be high or their stored estrogen is high. And that's a differentiation that we may need to go into because I'll get DMs all the time being like, I checked my estradiol, it was fine. How can I have estrogen dominance? But my answer back is, did you check estrone? Did you look at your liver enzymes? There are all these other things to look at. So anyhow, so estrogen's on its way up. So if you're estrogen dominant, you start to feel bad here. That feeling bad will often peak at ovulation. That's the worst. So we've got a lot of women coming in like days 14, 15, 16 are miserable. They're in the bed, they're unhappy, but they're not having a period. So they're like, what the heck,
What are some of those symptoms, just in case people hear that and they're like, maybe this is what's happening
Definitely.
to me?
Well, some of them are very textbook. Like they will complain of like ovulatory pain. They can feel pain on one side of the pelvis or the other, or a little bit higher even into the upper abdomen or lower abdomen. Other women just don't feel right. They get all of a sudden this huge amount of breast swelling and breast tenderness. They'll start to get a migraine. That's another big one. They'll notice that they bloat, like they don't have bloating. I always talk about this hormone belly as this inflatable balloon.
That took me forever to
conquer. Yeah. So all of a sudden they're bloating. They're like, wait, I'm pregnant. Like, no, you're not pregnant. So those are some of the different symptoms symptoms. And then some of them, going back to mental health, actually, I can't miss that. This window is where somebody with severe depression, mental health issues, this is a vulnerable period for them, right? Because that estrogen surge can trigger bipolar, can trigger a schizophrenic episode, and it can trigger severe depression and anxiety. And we've seen that in practice for sure.
Holy crap. It's not supposed to be like that.
No.
If you're in that much pain, if you're having these cramps, if you're something's wrong.
Right.
There's something going on with your body, but we have been taught to either keep it quiet or just accept that, this is, I grew up in a very religious home. I was taught to believe that the period and the pain that you got during your period and during childbirth was the result of Eve's original sin. So if Eve hadn't sinned, then you wouldn't have these problems. So this was like the cross that we all bear as women. That is how I was raised. Mm-hmm. So you didn't talk about that. You were just like, oh, it's part of it. I just have to experience this pain. Can you talk about, even with some of your patients, what are those symptoms that people think are normal and they could be helped? And they could be helped beyond just like taking ibuprofen every time and calling in sick for work.
Yeah, there's so many. I wouldn't even know where to start. And I'll start with the more obvious ones. So super heavy periods, not normal. Super painful periods, not normal. There are probably hormone patterns, wound up in a lot of those different symptoms. I think highly irregular periods, not normal at all. And then the mental health component that matches your cycle, not normal. Like a lot of women, like if we can start tracking your cycle and understanding and then tying that back to your mental health, you'll probably find a pattern there.
Absolutely.
And that may save you from, being on 3 different anxiety medications and depression medications and things like that. Then there are a host of others that I think get missed routinely. And I'm going to start with, again, a little bit more obvious to less obvious. So like gut symptoms. So rectal pain with your periods, not normal at all.
Cramps in your butt?
Cramps in your
Not
bottom.
normal.
Not normal.
What? I totally get those sometimes. I've made so many, I say it, poor Jack has been with me forever, so he's heard. But I've made so many jokes about that on stage that like men, they think that like a cramp is like in your stomach. And I'm like, we literally get them everywhere. Our boobs, our butthole. No. Like that's not normal.
That's not normal.
Okay.
Cramps in your bottom sometimes are a sign either your uterus is retroverted or tilted back, or you've got early endometriosis. Okay. So, something to pay attention to. I would say, like, moving on up, things like how you focus and concentrate, right? I see this in our teens, definitely see it in our, perimenopausal and menopausal women, like the inability to focus, to retain memory, all of those things. And when they're cyclical, that's a hormone symptom. That's not ADD.
You have to track it. You have to track it. These women have been listening to me say this for 3 years. Track your cycle. It's so easy. I just started a note in my phone day one. And all I did was just document. This is how I'm feeling. This is my energy. And I did that for 3 months.
Yeah.
And then on the 3rd month, when I was having a day that I thought the world was burning down, my life was terrible, and it was like day 20, let's say. I went back to the month before. Same thing on that day the month before. Went back to the month before that. Same. And I was like, this is the key. Like, this is what I do during the month. And for me, maybe for everybody, I feel like if I just know why, I don't get so wrapped up in it.
Okay. This is every person I've met. They all think they're going nuts.
Yes.
Everyone thinks they're going crazy, or it's either I'm going crazy or I'm old now, back to the 25-year-old who's old. I guess this is just normal. Those are like the 3 lines like that I keep hearing over and over again. And I think we really want to change all of that. We really want to say, no, track your cycle, own how you're feeling. Normal, I'll tell everybody what normal is. Normal is feeling good. That's what's normal. Feeling good, feeling happy, feeling joyous, and being ready to go out there into the world and do your thing. Normal is not retreating and hiding in the bed with the covers up and not wanting to face the world. That's not normal. Mm-hmm. So I think for all of us, myself included, because we're all shifting, right? Like, we've got to be like, okay, something's off. Time to check. Let me figure this out. Redirect, reevaluate my plan. And I've spent a lot of time in this book and even the previous one, the Superwoman RX, talking about the need to understand, like, medicine as it's set up today is like, all right, here's your answer, bye. It's like very like one directional. But if we're going to go back to women being these cyclical, fluid creatures, even through menopause, right? then your plan sometimes has to change, right? You have to go back in and be like, okay, where are we right now? And that's why, like, I'm hoping the books will help. It's like you go back in, reevaluate, reassess. Okay, this is what I need to do now. It might need a tweak. It might need a shift from what I'm used to doing normally. And we have to be open to that because we as women are very fluid and flexible creatures. You know, that's our gift. It's our superpower that we can kind of do all this movement. It's why we can multitask, right? All these different reasons. So I think when we're not honoring that, and then we're hiding or thinking that our health or our bodies have to be like a one answer solution, I think that doesn't do us a lot of service.
Yeah.
And I hope this doesn't feel like too big of a starting step, but sometimes the motivation you need, it's really hard to grab it from within. So I think I would start by finding someone who can be an accountability partner in their health journey. Because they can be kind of the mirror to that. And it doesn't have to be a doctor. It can be your sister, your best friend, your partner, your spouse, whoever, your daughter, you know, whoever it is. But that person is sort of your mirror and your guide in helping you along these journeys. And then together you set a goal.
That's a great idea.
So, okay, we're going to drink 100 ounces of water today. Did we drink 100 ounces of water today? Like, you know, and like you start that journey with someone. Yeah. Because I think when I even look back on myself, I wouldn't have even embarked on the journey, sad to say, if my now husband and my mom hadn't forced me to. And I was a doctor. And so I think that we're all in our heads and we all think that there's more important stuff to do or other projects to take care of other than ourselves. And so I think we need someone to get us out of our heads. And I think that is the fundamental problem. So I would say that would be the starting point, is to build community, whoever that community is, and then use that community to find the right resources, set identifiable goals, and then kind of move forward from there.
Visiting South Dakota was always one of my someday things. Like, well, someday I'm going to go see the Dakotas, and someday I'm going to walk through Badlands National Park, and someday I'm going to see Mount Rushmore in person. And then a couple summers ago, I just made someday today, and it was awesome. The kids and I had the most amazing time. We went hiking. We saw Mount Rushmore, which is like shockingly more majestic than you think it would be. We had amazing dinners. We stayed in this awesome log cabin in a national park. It was truly one of our favorite family vacations. And I loved it because it was this great blend of seeing a part of the U.S. I'd never seen before and being outside in nature. So maybe it's time you turn someday into today. See why there's so much South Dakota and so little time. Plan your escape at travelsouthdakota.com. Guys, if you are so tired of paying the most premium prices for healthy food, Thrive Market is a game changer. There is a reason I have been talking about this brand for like a year and a half? It's because it is like the easiest option for parents like us who are looking for a place to get healthy, stress-free grocery shopping done for the whole family. So what I love about shopping with Thrive, well, honestly, it's more than one thing. Number one, I love the subscription vibe. So any way I can set up my life where the same groceries I use over and over and over just show up on a regular schedule, that's number one. Like, I want to take all of the guesswork out of us eating as healthy as possible. Number two, I love the fact that if I'm finding something on their website, I know that it's going to be good for us. Lastly, I love that there's a bunch of things I never heard of before I shopped at Thrive Market. So I had Unreal for the first time there. Those are those chocolate-covered coconut bars. I had Ora Bora for the first time. I finally started Primal Kitchen mayonnaise because it's so much better for us than the other stuff I was using. My point is, there are all sorts of awesome reasons to shop there. And because you're my listener, you're going to get a little hookup. Take care of your health and your wallet. Thrive Market's biggest sale of the summer is officially on. So for a limited time, go to thrivemarket.com/Rach to get 30% off your first order, an extra 25% off of thousands of summer essentials, plus a free $60 gift just for signing up. That's thrivemarket.com/Rach to claim the offer before it's gone. thrivemarket.com/RACH.
When you're an internationally best-selling author, and both of us have been, it's like, well, the next one better be as good. And if it's not, you get unhappy because there's a part of your brain called the nucleus accumbens that respond to the happiness chemicals like dopamine. And more, unfortunately, won't make you happy. That's actually a lie, that you need to be happy with the journey rather than the outcome of the journey. So more is a lie. Don't worry, be happy is a complete lie. Those are the people who die early from accidents and preventable illnesses because they don't make good decisions. All of our decisions, if you want to be happy, you want to be happy now and later versus now, but not later. And vodka, for example, is now, but not later. And brain health is now and later. Or, the marketing messages of happiness, like open happiness is Coca-Cola's slogan. And open happiness is a lie. It's open illness. It's open diabetes. It's open obesity. It's open cancer. Soft drinks have been associated with virtually every bad illness humans can have. Happy meals are, in fact, not happy meals. They're sad meals because they're pro-inflammatory and they're not good for children. Or I need more money to be happy. And there is a correlation with happiness and money up to about $75,000. And then there's no correlation at all. And so more sex, more money, more relationships, those are the lies of happiness. And then I thought, okay, there's been 1,000 books written about happiness. What can I add to the discussion? A whole bunch, because I actually look at people's brains. And so the core of the book is really around these 7 neuroscience secrets of happiness that nobody's talking about. And secret number 1 is you need to gear your happiness strategies to your brain type. That happiness is not the same for everyone. And I talk about 5 primary types: balance, spontaneous, persistent, sensitive, and cautious. So the balanced people, they have pretty healthy brains, and most anything will make them happy. The spontaneous people, they have sleepy frontal lobes. They need novelty. They need excitement. If you're married to a persistent person who really wants to have sex on Tuesday night and Sunday morning, and we always do Tuesday night, and that'll just make you insane. It's like, we need to bury this, and this is not going to work for me. Spontaneous people probably love scary movies, would jump out of airplanes, love surprises. But the persistent people, they hate surprises. They like ritual, they like routine. And if they pick a religion, they'll pick one with ritual. Like anyone who chooses to be Roman Catholic, like I was born into being Roman Catholic, but if they'd picked it, they're generally the persistent person because ritual is comforting for them. Where for the spontaneous people, they're not picking being Lutheran or Catholic.
Right.
They're going to be Pentecostal because they need unpredictability. I have this mnemonic, bright minds. If you want to keep your brain healthy or rescue it, you have to prevent or treat the 11 major risk factors. And the N is neurohormones. So we talked about that. If testosterone, thyroid, estrogen, progesterone, insulin are not right, you're not likely to be happy. The I in bright minds, the first one is inflammation. The second one is infections. Well, like 140 million Americans have had COVID, and COVID changes your brain to make you unhappy. It activates the limbic or emotional structures in the brain, and all of a sudden you have brain fog, you're anxious, you're sad, you're irritable, and you have no idea it's the result of an infectious disease that we can calm down if we focus on brain health. And it's so interesting, Rachel, the scans I've seen.
Are there ways to try, for people who are listening who had COVID, are there things they can actively be doing to help combat that?
You bet. And so one, it's an anti-inflammatory diet. So I just had this great lunch of all these vegetables and mushrooms and a little bit of chicken. And you want to be on an anti-inflammatory diet. A pro-inflammatory diet, think pizza or pasta or the standard American diet of burger and fries. Those things will increase inflammation and make you much worse. So think colorful fruits and vegetables. Actually, secret number 4 is only love foods that love you back. That, both you and I have been in bad relationships and we're not doing it anymore. But nobody thinks about the relationship you're in with food. And I only want to love food that loves me back. And yes, I'm very fond of Rocky Road ice cream, but it beats me up when I eat it. And so, no, I am too mature to love something that hurts me. And, I want people really thinking about it because diet and happiness go hand in hand. Secret number 3 is supplement your happiness. So what I have found, so I got COVID, New Year's Eve of all things, from my chiropractor. And, I've been saying since the beginning of the pandemic, your best defense against COVID is your immune system. And so my vitamin D levels started at 80. Every day I take a multiple vitamin and fish oil and something I make called neurogreens and smart mushrooms, just strengthening my immune system. But with all the scans I'd seen with COVID, I took extra quercetin and curcumins because they have anti-inflammatory effects. And, I think I'm a little bit tireder at night, but other than that, I'm just fine. But it's very intentional. And anybody who gets COVID, they have a 20% increased risk of having a new psychiatric disorder within the first 5 months. And I think it's because of the changes in the brain, and not to mention the isolation, the chronic stress, the political divide, all of that stuff contributes. But it's the physical functioning of your brain. And my favorite supplement of all is something I make called Happy Saffron.
Happy Saffron. I love having people over to my house for dinner. I love a holiday party. I love a summer barbecue. I love any reason to have guests come over. It's one of my favorite things to do. And truth be told, when guests come over, I actually clean more intensely than I normally would. I usually will get like fresh flowers. I'll do a little extra something so that the house looks even better than it does regularly. And if you are like me, you gotta look at what's going on at Wayfair this summer. There's something for every style and every home, no matter your space or budget. There's free and easy delivery, even on the big stuff. Like as I'm looking for things for the new house, like you can have a bed delivered, you can get an armoire, you can get full tile for your bathroom. No more huge delivery fees for patio furniture. Get the sets, the gazebos, the hot tubs, outdoor dining, and more. Shop outdoor furniture, grills, lawn games, and way more for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to explore a huge outdoor selection. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home.
When it comes to back-to-school shopping at Target, we believe the best choice is all of the above. From first-day butterflies to last-day high fives and everything in between, at prices that will definitely make your day. For all of the above, it's back to school at Target.
Happiness is hard for me. It's not like horrible. It's not like nobody needs to, call 911, but it's not, I'm lower in positive affect and higher in negative affect than a lot of people.
Meaning that you tend to gravitate more towards negativity?
Yeah.
Or pessimism?
Well, it's not even pessimism. It's melancholia, as they used to say in the Middle Ages.
Yes.
It's just kind of sort of a blue outlook. And look, I come from gloomy parents and gloomy grandparents, and half of your baseline happiness is genetic. We actually know this from identical twin studies where identical twins are separated at birth and adopted into separate families. So it's a statistical test. It's not done on purpose. That would be unethical, obviously.
Except for that one documentary with the triplets.
Yeah.
Have you seen that one?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Really upsetting. Sorry.
I know. What, you mean Three Identical Strangers? That one?
Yes.
Yeah. The three brothers?
Yes. And
super heavy.
Yeah.
Super heavy.
Yeah.
I know. And it turns out that they all have the same set of psychiatric conditions, et cetera, because these things are largely inherited. Yeah. Between 40 and 80% of every personality characteristic is genetic, and your baseline mood is half genetic. And so that means it's super important to understand that so you can manage your genetics. I mean, half of your tendency toward alcoholism and drug abuse is genetic too.
Yeah, for sure.
But all that means is that you need better habits. If you've got a proclivity toward it, I've got this super technology for turning that to zero. It's called don't drink.
Yeah.
And the same thing is true for your happiness. If it turns out you've got gloomy parents, you should study happiness so that you can have the right kind of habits. And so I, realizing that maybe a little later than I should have in my 40s, I'm like, I'm going to turn my toolkit on this thing. Well, it's my wife. She's like, don't you have a PhD? Why aren't you using it, for something useful, like not making me miserable?
Yeah.
And so I actually turned the whole toolkit toward trying to understand what kind of a strategy I could put together for my own life so that I could live happier and share these ideas with other people. And I changed my career completely. I was a CEO of a think tank, a big nonprofit think tank in Washington, D.C., and I quit my job.
At what age were you?
I took that job when I was 44 and I quit when I was 55. And in the last 7 years of that, I was writing a personal research-based science plan for getting happier for me. And I had this big envelope of notes and, notebooks, and Esther, my wife, found it. And she's like, this is a book. It's not the kind of stuff I write books about. She said, I think somebody might be interested in this.
Yeah.
And I published it. It was From Strength to Strength about how you can get happier as the years go by. And it turned out to be something that people wanted to read. And I became so enthusiastic about it. I said, this is not right for me to keep doing something else and have this be my personal plan. I want to write, speak, and teach about this for literally the rest of my life. I mean, I rewrote my personal mission statement, which is I want to use science and ideas to lift people up and bring them together in bonds of happiness and love. That's what I want to do, and I'm going to do that for the rest of my life. And so I left in 2019, and I've been teaching at Harvard and writing in the Atlantic and writing books and talking about the thing that people really want the most, which is getting happier.
Is the data skewed in any direction for men who are over 40 versus women who are over 40?
There are differences for
Yeah.
sure. Traditionally, men and women have had happiness differences. Traditionally, women are happier than men, is what we find in almost every category. So if you look at marriage, you find that married women are happier than married men, that single women are happier than single men. Widowed women are way happier than widowed men. It's like my wife looked at that one, she's like, huh. The only group of women that tend to be less happy are divorced women who have kids in the home, because it's incredibly stressful. It's just tons of work. Isn't that right, Rachel?
I don't know anything about that.
I know, it's like
As our sweet housekeeper, who I literally don't know how we'd live without, this morning I think could tell I was very stressed. I have 4 kids and each of them go to a different school.
Oh, nice.
And this was the first week back at school.
Yeah.
So just trying to navigate how everyone would get to school today was like, oh, it was
like
miracle.
Operation Desert Storm, right?
It was, yeah. And I came back and I was sort of standing at the kitchen counter like, okay, we did this. We're fine. And she looked at me and she said, I know you don't want to hear this, but it really does go so fast. And people used to tell me that when my kids were young. And I used to tell them back that they had no idea what they were talking about because they didn't know how hard it felt for me. And she said, it doesn't mean that this moment isn't hard for you, but it is precious. Yeah. And I was like, thank you.
I know. Well, part of it is, and actually it's one of the things that I study in my work. And you find that when your kids are little and there's a lot of stress and you're pursuing a career and moving and all the things that you do, especially if you're single, that you're trading off a lot of enjoyment for meaning. So your life has more and more and more meaning, but less and less and less enjoyment. And that's one of the reasons in your 30s and 40s it can be so difficult, and moment-to-moment happiness can be hard to come by. That's one of the reasons. And, it's funny because, I remember in those years, I mean, my wife did a lot more than I did in bringing up the kids because I was always working, I was running a company or whatever. But I tried to be home as much as possible, and it was stressful. It really was stressful. And then it's weird because they grew up. Now I'm a grandfather.
Are you really? How's that?
Different.
Yeah.
So it's the same. It's weird. It's like, it's better.
Yeah, I'm sure you could give them back to somebody.
I know. It's really, really great. And I didn't sort of think that was going to happen, but of course it does because they grow up. And my kids got married young. I have my 25 and 23-year-old sons are both married.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my 20-year-old daughter's not married yet.
Yeah.
But who also is adopted, by the way.
Cool.
Like your youngest.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah. But it's a different kind of a sensation. But I'm more conscious of the fact that that's going to go fast.
Mm-hmm.
So it's because there's less pressure. And so there's more moment-to-moment happiness and more meaning. So you're going to love it when the time comes.
I didn't mean to interrupt,
No.
but can you explain what you mean? What's the difference between happiness and moment-to-moment happiness?
Well, it's the happiness that you're experiencing right now versus over the arc of your life.
Got it.
So what you'll say is, so I could ask you 2 questions like, Rachel, how happy are you this morning? Or I could say, how happy are you this year?
Yeah.
Or how happy is this decade? And you'd have to think about all 3 of them in different ways. You could answer the first one most sort of like that.
Yeah.
You'd say like, Nyeh.
Yeah.
It's like, and this year, it would be something you'd be thinking about the events of this year. You moved.
Of course.
Really, really stressful, but you're living in a place where you really want to live. And so you'd be thinking about the
Yes.
sums, like the cost and benefits. And this decade, like, been a crazy decade for Rachel Hollis.
Yeah, it has.
And so you'd have to think about that. You'd have to think, it's like there's kind of the party line on how happy I should be. And there's the happiness that I am enjoying.
Yeah.
And that's how we'd go into that if we were trying to calculate that one.
Well, and what's the difference between contentment and happiness?
Contentment, see, the funny thing about happiness is there's so many words around it.
Right.
So let's sort of define the terms. So happiness is basically a combination of 3 things. It's sort of the macronutrient profile of happiness. So if you're going to do your macros in food, it's protein, carbohydrates, and fat. The macronutrients of happiness are enjoyment, satisfaction, and purpose. These are the 3 parts of happiness.
I guess I'm really happy then.
Yeah, because you've got those 3 things.
Those 3 things.
Yeah, and contentment is really it's kind of the convergence of satisfaction and meaning in your life, satisfaction and purpose in your life. Enjoyment is interesting because enjoyment is actually hard to get. Most people will stop at pleasure, and pleasure never brings happiness. Pleasure is this limbic phenomenon. It's this neurophysiological phenomenon. It's a signal to you that it's going to help you survive. You can pass on your genes, but it will never lead to happiness because it's fleeting.
Pleasure never brings happiness.
It does not. What you need is pleasure plus people plus memory. So, for example, if there's something that gives you pleasure but you're alone, it's a problem. because that will lead to addiction and won't lead to happiness.
Whoa, that's so good.
Yeah. And so that's why Anheuser-Busch doesn't do an ad for beer that shows a guy pounding a 12-pack alone in his apartment. Because that's pleasure, and that will not bring that guy happiness.
Right.
But in the ad, the guy is drinking a beer with his brother and friends, and they're having a great time and loving each other on a fishing trip and making a memory.
Yes.
Pleasure plus people plus memory equals enjoyment, and that leads to happiness.
Oh my God. I actually didn't know this is something that could be broken down in this way, but obviously it can.
Yeah. These are the equations. I do this on all the components of happiness because my job is to teach people how to get more of it. And so you can't just be like, it's a thing. You can't be really philosophical about it. You got to be very specific about it. And each one of the macronutrients of happiness has a formula like this, and you can check yourself to know whether you've got the right strategy in your life.
And then is it as simple as just add more of those types of moments?
Well, yeah. So most people, I can usually diagnose what's going wrong in people's lives. If they have lots and lots of pleasure, but not enough people and memories in their life, I can actually say you're going toward addiction. You don't need to get rid of these sources of pleasure. You need to dial them down and put in more opportunities to be sociable, to be in communion with other people, and to be more conscious of what you're doing, such that you can be engaging the prefrontal cortex of your brain and not just your lizard brain. Wow. Lizard brain says, beer feel good. Yeah. Right? And that's not the way to consume it. Now, some people, they will wire their brains, their dopaminergic pathways, the neuromodulators in their brain, so that they have to hit the pleasure lever again and again and again and again. And those are the people who have to stop doing that and to not use that source of pleasure ever again because they get, frankly, too good at it.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of neuroscience that goes into this whole thing too.
So I'm thinking in terms of someone right now who heard this and realizes, wow, I get my pleasure from food. Like I'm doing it by myself. I'm doing sort of the exact things that you're describing. For someone who might be having that awareness right now, what does it look like to add people and memory to that experience so they're experiencing the pleasure but not in a way that's becoming something negative for them?
Yeah. So the way to do it is to think a strategy of adding as opposed to subtraction.
Right.
Now, there are a lot of cases you have to subtract. I mean, if people eat to excess and it's really bad for their bodies, then they need to actually tighten up their diet for sure. But that's kind of obvious.
Right.
The way to think about it in a way that's not punitive and that's not negative is to say, I have a rule, except under extraordinary circumstances, I never eat alone. I don't eat alone. Now, some people live alone. So what are you going to do? You know, I saw this book called Microwave Cooking for One.
Oh,
I almost
God.
started crying when I heard this.
No.
But I get it.
At least use the stove.
I know. I'm alone a lot because I'm on the road and I'm not always traveling with, and you know what it's like when you're on the road alone. And there's sometimes when it's just really, really refreshing to go to a restaurant and eat and think and, et cetera. But as a rule, I'm not gonna eat the most delicious food by myself. I'm gonna have a rule of eating with other people, such that it is a social experience. And when I'm doing it, I'm gonna be doing it while doing something memorable. Yeah. I'm gonna have a conversation that's memorable. So add these rules to it, and it will change your life. You don't have to be on some sort of crazy, subtractive, limiting diet, because those things never work.
Right.
95% of diets don't work. And there's a reason for that too. I mean, we actually understand the neuroscience of how that works, not just the lipid profiles, et cetera, but when the scale's going down, it's the benefit is higher than the cost of not eating what you like. But when you hit your goal, your reward is never eating what you like ever again for the rest of your life. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And so the whole point is you have to change your orientation toward the source of the pleasure, whereas drinking or intimacy with your partner or what you're actually doing with your eating habits or if you're going to Vegas, don't go to Vegas by yourself.
Right.
Don't sit in front of a slot machine by yourself. You're hitting the dopamine circuit in your brain again and again and again because you want that pleasure reward.
Yeah.
And it's not going to bring you happiness. It's going to bring you misery.
If you find yourself getting frustrated in situations that you don't normally get frustrated, or anxious in situations you don't really feel normally anxious, or pissed off, or scared, or any strong emotion that's negatively affecting your life that feels not normal to you, it's really worth seeing what's going on. And I'm speaking as someone on the other side of a lot of help from therapists, from hormone doctors, from naturopaths, from nutritionists. Like, your girl has dug deep into every part of this. And I just keep getting better and I keep feeling better. And it's not because all of a sudden a wand waved and suddenly it's fixed. It's because I feel like I solve one piece of the puzzle. I put like one piece of the puzzle in, right? Maybe y'all heard me talk about I was having depression. Depression was showing up really heavy on my heart. And I felt like this is not normal. This is not right. This is not me. I have not felt this way. Something's wrong. And then discovered that I had really severe anemia from how heavy my periods have been. And if someone else told me like, oh, I have anemia from heavy periods, I'd be like, okay, so? Because I didn't understand how much that affects your life. Anemia doesn't just affect your life, it affects your moods. And it affects your moods, I've since learned, because if you're anemic, you don't have the right amount of oxygen in your blood. And if you don't have the right amount of oxygen in your blood, you're not getting enough oxygen to your brain. And if you're not getting enough oxygen to your brain, it makes you feel slow and sluggish. It makes you feel depressed. It makes you feel tired. It makes it hard to focus. You have brain fog. All of these things are going on. But if you don't understand why, you don't know how to make it better. If you haven't listened to the episode I did with Dr. Brush, who's my hormone doctor, please go back and check that out. That was life-changing to me. But also, since Dr. Brush got me on seeds and oil cycling, since I started taking chase tree berry, since I added iron because I was anemic, even since then, after meeting with a nutritionist, I've gotten some other things that help to increase oxygen in my body. And a new one, I gotta tell you guys about it. I was at a nutritionist because like once a year, and I understand I'm super privileged that I can go meet with a nutritionist. Not everybody can afford this. I totally get it. There's a ton of information on the internet. That's what I did before I could actually sit down with someone. But I met with a nutritionist a couple weeks ago because in the last year, I have added a lot of things to my system, and I just want to make sure everything was good. I wanted to get blood work done. I just wanted to check it all out. And she's a nutritionist, and she's also does energy work. So you know me and my woo-woo and my hippie and my witchy and my whole thing. But like, she's looking at blood work. She's also sort of energetically feeling out where you might have some deficiencies. And one of the things that she recommended to me is drops that are it's literally called Fields of Flowers. It's homeopathic drops. And Fields of Flowers is a homeopathic formula, a unique combination of 38 traditional flower essences, with each one associated with a key element of emotional concern. Fields of Flowers is a complete and comprehensive support formula. Edward Bach was a British medical doctor, bacteriologist, homeopath, and spiritual writer, best known for developing Bach flower remedies. So I'd never heard of this before. Talk to your doctor before you try anything, but it's over the counter, it's homeopathic. And she's like, it literally can't hurt. Put a dropper of Fields of Flower essence in your water in the morning. So you'll take it in slowly. So it's like 15 drops of this little thing. You take it in slowly throughout the day, and it'll just support your overall emotional health. Now, on the very front of this bottle, it literally says, it's a very small writing, and I'm looking on Google. It says, a broad range of emotional symptoms such as fear, anxiety, and despondency. So she was like, it just is gonna make you feel a bit happier. Just try it. So I've been using it for 2 weeks, and I swear I'm feeling so good. And you guys, everything I'm doing in my life is to try and have energy, is to feel good, is to feel happy. Look, life is freaking hard. It's hard out there in the world. It's hard raising kids, all of it. So I'm looking for everything that I can find that is a natural option to make me feel good. It's why I take walks in the sunshine. It's why I like to dance around to my favorite music and cuddle with my dog. All of these things are really good for making us feel good. But I know I haven't been on it very long, but you might just try it. I just looked on Amazon. It was like $25. And you only put a small amount in your water. So I feel like it's going to last you a while, and it's worth trying. Definitely not an ad. If that was an ad, I would have represented it better. When you experience, Erin or anyone else, when you experience a shift in your mood and how you're showing up in the world and how you're interacting with people in a way that doesn't feel like you or doesn't feel like who you want to be, don't accept it. Unpack it. For me, that looks like therapy. For me, that looks like having blood work done. For me, that looks like seeing how I'm doing nutritionally. For me, that looks like a lot of things. But I don't want to ever accept that a mediocre existence is all that there is. I feel like we have the ability to seek out remedies that make us feel better. And it's our duty to ourselves, to the version of us who hasn't ever given up, to the version of us who has dreams and hopes and ideas. It matters to that version of you that you show up in this world and you seek out the best version of yourself. The Rachel Hollis Podcast is produced by me, Rachel Hollis. It's edited by Andrew Weller and Jack Noble.
At Capella University, learning online doesn't mean learning alone. You'll get support from people who care about your success, like your enrollment counselor, who gets to know you and the goals you'd like to achieve. You'll also get a designated academic coach who's with you throughout your entire program. Plus, career coaches are available to help you navigate your professional goals. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
This season, let your shoes do the talking. Designer Shoe Warehouse is packed with fresh styles that speak to your whole vibe without saying a word. From cool sneakers that look good with everything, to easy sandals you'll want to wear on repeat, DSW has you covered. Find a shoe for every you from the brands you love, like Birkenstock, Nike, Adidas, New Balance, and more. Head to your DSW store or visit dsw.com today.